What's up, entrepreneurs? Welcome to another interview here on BatchTV, where we help you identify the switch you need to flip in order to unlock your full potential. My name is Kyle Redmond, the Senior Affiliate Manager here at Batch Service, and today we have the honor of interviewing Ryan Zolin, the famous millionaire before 30. So we all want to know Ryan, okay? Who is Ryan Zolin, and what should people know about you when it comes to your story and your journey of becoming a successful real estate investor?
Who am I? I would tell you that I'm the guy that had to learn the lessons the hard way. I was very bad at school, so while college wasn't something I was interested in, it wasn't really on the table to look at. But when I was looking at options and I chose real estate, I went into this industry with a lot of ego and entitlement, but with the not understanding of what a true value of a dollar was and not having to really work all that hard throughout my life, it was the entitlement and ego that killed me. So it took me really, what I say, I didn't really blow up till like year 4.5, 5, was that I had to go through a lot of life lessons and learn some things about myself, about adulthood, and basically just fail. I had to go through the lessons, and by that point, I was able to identify where I'd gone wrong, what I needed to do differently. Grew up, basically, is what I would tell people, and now here I am. So I always like to joke with people, like I'm 24 going on 50.
Yeah.
It's just like what I'll tell you that I've had to go through in the past 6 years of being in real estate. There is definitely moments and things I had to do that made me who I am in a good way. But it was things that at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 years old, they're not easy decisions. They're not easy conversation situations. And a lot of it makes you a better person. The bigger the problems, the bigger the pay is what I learned. And now, again, just thankful for where I'm at today.
As a mentor, what is the best advice that you could give someone starting out in the real estate investing space?
So what I learned through coaching, and this was even taught to me by mentors of my own, was your vibe attracts your tribe. So what you need to do is put energy out of what you're trying to attract, as cheesy as that sounds, but the manifestation game is very real. Like who you surround yourself with and what you're doing on a daily basis, your actions are going to determine the outcome of wherever you're at. So I would tell you to find the tribe that you vibe with and make sure that the person that you're around is doing what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So there's certain things throughout this industry, like different avenues you could go. You could go commercial, multifamily, fix and flip, wholesaling, creative finance, all different mentors for all different games. But if you're trying to learn creative finance, don't go and get a mentor that specializes in multifamily.
So what are one or two major changes that you maybe made in your life or business that have helped you get to where you are today?
Sure. Let's go. I think I got 3 of them. So in the first moment, I was 19 years old. I had 22 agents that were working for me, and I was what a lot of people on the traditional real estate side would say was killing it. I was doing like 3, 5, 7 on a good month, 10 deals a month. And this was with 22 agents. I had a business partner who was my first mentor that kind of showed me everything, where we were doing traditional real estate, we were doing commercial deals, business broker transactions. I was the face of the brokerage. I was basically about as set up as it could have been on the traditional side, to where I had investors, and I always mention this story, but with Templeton Walker, like identifying me as an agent that could send them deals, I was on a lot of people's radar. So I was doing very well on the traditional side, where I had a good future ahead of me. Full transparency, that was my best year as a traditional agent. This was year 2, $130,000. So I was working 50, 60 hours a week. Again, basically poster child of the brokerage. I had a business partner that I knew wouldn't let me fail because he taught me everything, and he was a safety net that did all the paperwork for me, even though I didn't know how to do it. We had all these agents doing all deals. I did what most people wouldn't do, and I would say this was a really defining moment where I felt I had to trust my gut and intuition more with opportunity than I did with stability. So what I mean by that was I was very irrational and quick with my decision. I was trying to be as strategic as I could. I went to my brokers and I was like, hey, I met this guy Templeton. He fixes and flips and wholesales, but he's making $400,000 on the side wholesaling. We need to wholesale at this brokerage. No one here is doing this. They told me no way. I realized after I'd left them that it was because they don't get paid on it. So they didn't want me to go out and go do these things, not because they didn't want me to succeed, but because they didn't have the benefit from it. So that held me back. But in the moment, I didn't realize that because I found out afterwards. So I left the business partner that basically saved me and taught me everything. I fired 21 out of 22 agents. and I left the brokerage that basically I had the full future and potential to be the face of. And I did that because I saw opportunity to go learn what wholesaling was, even though no one was willing to teach me. So I could have done all the YouTube videos, I could have done all the things. I know myself, and obviously graduating high school barely, I was like, I cannot go and just study YouTube. I don't know what I don't know. I barely know how to be a traditional real estate agent. I need to learn hands-on. So we went over to EXP. It was me, my top agent, and that was it. Just went over to EXP underneath Templeton, and he introduced me to a few people. Fast forward just a little bit, EXP wasn't for me. He introduced me to Steve Trang, who then leads to the next event after a couple months. Steve was my mentor. He introduced me to Jamil Damji. Jamil had just launched Astro Flipping like 2 weeks later, and so that's when I was the first student in that program. So one event was leaving the partner, leaving that. What I forgot to mention in the midst of that, I went from 130,000 to the next 6 months I made like 20K. So I was on track to make like maybe $60,000 as a traditional agent that year. Had I not left EXP and went to Steve, I would have never met Jamil, which was event number 2, Astro Flipping happening. And then event number 3, lastly, was I had some stuff happen with family, and I was like, I got to peace out. It was my first time kind of putting my foot down, and I stepped away from everything that was the entitlement. I had a lot of my bills that were being paid for through family, and I was like, I can't support what event happened. And I'm not going to get into specifics of that, but it was my first time kind of standing up away from everybody, and I had no crutch, and that's what led to the failure, but that's what made me the better person.
Wow.
So it's kind of a roller coaster there, but those 3 events I'd say were very defining as to what made me who I am.
Boom.
Yep. Opportunity, mentorships, and then from there, failure.
I know that you're talking to agents a lot, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any techniques that maybe you use to build relationships with an agent, a partner, or a mentor when you've really never met them in person before? You know, this is a skill. This is something that not a lot of people have, right?
Yeah. So I think that there's differences between finding the relationship as an agent versus like a mentor and a partner.
Yep.
A mentor or partner, make sure obviously your visions are aligned, your morals are aligned, you're very intentional on who you would be going into the business with like that. If for a partnership especially, date before you marry. So
of course.
Go with that route. Mentorship goes back to finding out, making sure that the people that are doing what you're trying to accomplish are actually doing what you're wanting. And then as for agents, I think where this has been one of my superpowers is just being relatable, understanding that I know more about their industry than they think, and rather than the average investor that comes in that doesn't have traditional experience, I understand the struggles they go through. I understand what their day-to-day looks like. I understand how many of them actually don't really work, and how it just like they rely on the phone to ring and putting out a few social media posts and what the brokerages teach. So if I can just be a resource in that light at the end of the tunnel with them, I know when I go into a conversation with an agent, there's 15 different ways I could like end up helping them and just being a resource or a value.
Beautiful. Yeah. And with the agents, it's just like having the confidence to be able to talk to them in the first place.
For sure.
Right? Knowing what you're talking about, but also giving and not taking.
That's the biggest thing. Most agents, remembering that this is a saying I always say, but like the hardest part of being an agent is to find a client. The hardest part of being an investor is to find the deal. So if you understand the hardest part for an agent is to find a client, when you're calling, you're a potential client. So they should be happy to talk to you. Those conversations, while confidence is definitely huge, understanding that even if you don't have the answers, their job is to help you.
So do you have any non-negotiables, whether it's personal or business related?
I do. I really only have, two sides. I wake up every day and I like to make a list of what I know my non-negotiables for the day being over and these tasks are not completed.
Yep.
So I usually have 3 to 5 things that I know this is like top of mind. Outside of that, non-negotiables, it's usually only during football season.
So let's just say somebody early in the game, just starting out, how important is it for them to find a mentor, right? Somebody they can relate to, but how important is it?
So before you even find a mentor, you need to ask yourself why you're doing it. And I think a lot of times people always talk about how if your why is money, it's bad. That's bullshit. I'm sorry. If your why is money, you're doing it right because you need money, and understanding money as a tool is what's the most important thing. So it's not thinking money's evil, it's knowing how to utilize money. Once you get to the point where money becomes the vehicle that allows you to go and do more, that's when you bring more people with you, you're able to scale and grow. Mentorship from the beginning is tough because if you don't have the funds, don't go and take it from yourself or invest in yourself and bet on yourself. I'm actually one of those mentors that will tell you, Do not bet on yourself when you're first getting started.
Yeah.
You need to transition from faith to fact. That's what Brent says. You need proof of concept that you could actually do this. So we have Millionaire Before 30 to show. There's the 5-step process to financial freedom. And I think it's important to kind of reference this right now. The first thing is you need to be able to do a deal. That is literally step 1. That's before like I'm even talking about like going into mentorship stuff.
Yep.
2 is then going full-time. If you notice that I'm not even saying go full-time in this business before you do a deal. Do a deal when you have a 9-to-5 job, then go full-time in the business.
Yep.
Kill the debt, invest into assets, now you're financially free. It's that simple.
Wow.
Don't invest into assets, which is even mentorship, until you've end up going and doing a deal in your full-time and you've killed the debt.
Yep.
I'm telling you not to go into debt. Don't pay mentorships. There's free resources. You can watch shows like this. You can go and watch my YouTube channel. You can go into my Discord community. You can watch all these other guys on YouTube. You can get the bare necessities to get started and take enough action to show that you're serious. So I would just say like go and work for free. Work for a discount. Get a skill. What I did is I worked with them for 4 or 5 months. I took the ability to learn how to work through leads, work a database, call and follow up with leads, get over the fear of being on the phone, and actually close a deal. And then I went to the guy that was my mentor and I said, hey, I know how to get leads, I know how to work a CRM, I know how to follow up and call them, and I know how to close a deal-ish. Can you help teach me the rest of the process? Everything I do, I will give you 50% of. Anything you do, keep. I don't want anything from your deal.
There you go.
And I mean, I run a very, very lean model to begin with, but I was running about like $7,000, $7,500 a month. We're down to under 5 now. So
Wow.
I took $2,500 off, and I'm saying this as if like those are big numbers to everyone that's watching this, that's doing it at like high levels. You guys know this industry, it's $50,000 to $100,000 very easily before you know it. So now I'm at the point where liquid heavy, market's going down. What I'm actually doing, we're not going and buying a bunch of flips. If a wholesale opportunity comes across, we can pick it up 50 cents on the dollar, throw 10 grand into it, put it back, and make some money. Absolutely. I'm not doing anything structural, nothing crazy. Flipping, if anything, is on the very, very back of my mind. Got rid of the staging company, started being able to now utilize, we're 60% warehouse, 40% office. 60% warehouse is now being utilized for agent investors, 34 Holdings, Zolin Group. All my team has like a whole industrial feel, which especially right now with the weather, it's beautiful out.
Of course.
But we're just trying to, a guy that used to work on my team, he actually used this analogy and it was great. It's not about where the puck is, it's about where the puck is going. This is going to go down like 20%, maybe more. We're down about like 15-20% right now as Arizona. And I think we got hit pretty quickly, if not one of the hardest markets in the entire country, the fastest. So we're seeing that other markets have a little bit of a lag time, where east, southeast specific, they haven't really experienced too much yet. They're seeing a little bit of a slowdown, but a lot of the students in my community, their biggest struggle is still finding deals. It's not finding buyers. So that's how I know that they haven't been affected yet. But yeah, we're cash heavy, so we're just kind of taking a foot off the gas on flips, watching what happens, trying to be strategic, not over leverage. I was supposed to take a couple more trips towards the end of the year.
No.
Canceled those. So you just got to be smart.
Of course.
Not really freaking out. I would say I'm a little more underwhelmed than overwhelmed. Cut your losses. And I'm being so serious. If I have to give you anything to take away from this, especially in the current market we're in today, just at the end of October, if you have flips, don't. Get rid of them ASAP. If you're at the point where you're letting your emotions get the best of you and you're like, well, I'm going to lose 30,000 right now. Okay, well, if you're literally going to lose 30,000 right now, don't hold on with the fact that you might be able to make 15 more. No, cut your losses at 30, because if that 30 goes to 60, that's what wipes you out.
Yep.
So I would tell you the biggest thing here then is survivability. You need to be able to survive. This is where having the 6 to 12 months of reserves is going to be what makes the difference. I think a lot of people were saying that as the market, whatever the analogy, the tide went away, you're going to see who's swimming out their trunks on. I think a lot of people were referring to that like in the flip game and like who was over leveraged. I actually think it's going to be even a mix of that, as well as who didn't prepare for what's happening now. Just do what you got to do. A lot of teams, a lot of overhead, a lot of people are going to be shifting and changing. This is not the time to change. This is not the time to jump ship and go and do your own thing. Now is the time to double down on what you know and your strengths and literally get better at sharpening your tools.
There you go.
So,
I agree. And that's with, I mean, I think that's across the board with any investments, you know. It's good to be liquid right now. If you were to leave one piece of advice behind for all the hustlers out there, okay, that are listening, what word of advice would you give?
I want to give it about comparison as a whole. I typically like to go the very specific route of saying don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 30. In this instance, it's comparison as a whole. What you need to understand, and this was something that I went through with therapy and went through just with personal development, was I call it variables. There's a lot of people, whether they'll call this excuses or commitments or whatever, I call it variables. A lot of people that are 40 years and up, they might have college debt, wives, husbands, kids, mortgage payments, whatever, all these other things, those are variables. Somebody might not have those luxuries, and they may have had the hardest upbringing where split parents, maybe one passed away or something, or they're in a specific community where they can't get out of like just bad habits, whatever. Those are all variables to me. So if you can understand that whatever it is that you're comparing to is probably none of your business to begin with, and it may not even be real, why are you comparing? So you need to do a lot of soul searching and reflecting, and I think this goes from self-awareness and going back to the why. Figuring out what you're doing this for makes it a lot easier to get the distractions out of your head. So a lot of times comparison comes from feeling as if, whether it's envy or resentment, jealousy, whatever, I promise you, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, you're like, oh, so-and-so closed this deal and I should have, or so-and-so bought this new car and I should be able to buy a new car. I promise you, by the time you get that, whatever it is that you thought that you wanted, there's a new thing you want.
Yep,
and
always.
the joke of it, I'll tell you from being in a lot of these rooms and backstages, is a lot of the people that have that kind of stuff, they're not even happy. So if the people you're comparing to aren't even happy, and you don't even know that because you can't see it through social media, what are you comparing to? Like, if you knew the full story, you'd be like, holy shit, I'm not comparing this. I'm thankful for what I have.
Yep.
So I think you need an extreme abundance and gratitude for what you do have. Being self-aware, and then just don't compare.
There you have it, Ryan Zolin. So how do people find you online, or how do people find you?
Yeah, social media, all my handles, everything's just my first and last name, Ryan Zolin, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram.